Without further ado, let's get into my top 5 favorite movies of 2025 on today, January 29th, 2026. And 2025 was a rocky year. And I'm not saying that 2026 has gone off to any kind of a better start, because honestly, it hasn't. Today, I wanted to recap my top 5 favorite movies of 2025, as I have done almost every year, with the exception of maybe one or two. Keep in mind, these are not like I'm not saying these are objectively the best movies, as film is art. It is an amalgamation of several arts. Therefore, it is the most subjective thing I could probably think of ever. Some movies that I didn't get the chance to watch, because one, I mean, most of these are actually on streaming services now, and I just didn't take the time. One actually released on the streaming service, but 5 movies that I thought that I think might have cracked this list, but ultimately did not, because I never watched them. So please don't hate me for not watching them, nor having them in my list. It's not my fault. I'm a busy boy. Those movies are Eternity, Rental a Family, Frankenstein, Gonya, and One Battle After Another. All 5 of those movies, I think, look good and look like they could appeal to my broader sensibilities and could have made the list. Alas, I did not make time to watch them. That's on me. I will watch them eventually, but as of recording this, or as of this stream, I did not. But yeah, like I said, 2025 kind of feels like one of the weaker years in film that I feel like. Not to say that there's none good movies, because there obviously are. Not as many movies that I went to go see this year kind of wowed me. And maybe that's because I kind of tried to open myself up a little bit more to watching movies that I didn't already kind of know I was gonna like. And that made less time for movies that I knew I was going to, like the 5 movies that I had said. Nonetheless, these are 5 movies that stood out to me, made me grip my seats, made me pucker my bunghole, made me clench the cheeks just ever so slightly, whether it was out of fear, glee, or sadness. Number 5 was probably my favorite horror movie of the year, and that being this little movie called Last Breath.
Duncan! Dave! I can't see you!
I don't know about you, dude. I don't know about you, but that movie, even watching the trailer again, really like took me back. There was a scene early on in the trailer, and it's fairly early on in the movie, that had first got me. There's a scene where the divers, this is before any of the catastrophe happens, any of the main conflict develops, but the divers are going down into the ocean, and there's this incredible wide shot of just simply their light slowly descending, and there's nothing but darkness around them. Woo, man. I don't know if it's because I specifically have a deep fear of like vastness of space, or the vastness of the ocean, and how dark and all the shit and how large it is, but I saw that scene and I started sweating. And there were multiple scenes in that movie that just have me fucking sweating, dude. But if you couldn't tell by the trailer, the basic premise of the movie is that there are these divers that work on underwater electronics, or I think maybe like cable or internet like cording. I don't exactly remember, but their cord gets snapped and they get separated, and they're on a mission now to go through the torrential waters to save this last guy, while his oxygen tank has also disconnected and he is quickly running out of air. The most effective suspense that I have seen in a movie probably ever, because it just seems like the most impossible task. Like the ocean, it varies so much from calm, tepid waters to just storming vast waves, that it makes trying to get this one guy, trying to pinpoint him and having to calculate for the like how the wire will go down, as the boat is moving, as the waters are moving the wire. It's just the most impossible task that I can remember being put in a movie. That movie was incredibly gripping. It is by far the least known movie on this list. The rest are like popular releases, but Last Breath, I think, is vastly underappreciated and deserves a little bit more love. That's why it had to be number 5 on my list. Next on the list, a little movie that I'm sure a ton of people, and I mean a ton of people, really thought was going to be my number 1. A movie that some would say I waited my entire life to see, and I finally got to watch it at the ripe age of 30 years old. A true imagining of a character that I watched in cartoons my entire life and always wanted to see that version of the character adapted onto the big screen, and I finally got the chance. Ladies and gentlemen, number 4 is
Superman. The most powerful being on planet Earth. They chose him. Let them die.
Hey! Quit messing around!
I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff.
even seeing that trailer now makes me all giddy inside, puts that feeling of being a young boy again into my tummy. And let me tell you, when I watched that movie opening Thursday by myself in the IMAX because no one else was free at the time. And I was simply not waiting. Of course, I cleared it with my girlfriend and I cleared it with my friends, but I went to go watch it all by myself. I sat, got the best seat I could. And from the moment that the big S comes on screen after the opening little intro card of the movie, I had tears in my eyes. And as nerdy as that sounds, it is, like I said, is because it immediately felt like, and then also based on the reviews that had came out of it prior to the movie actually releasing, I watched Justice League and Justice League Unlimited and Superman anime series and Batman anime series, and I thought that those versions of the characters had never really been done in movies. Although I'm a big fan of Zack Snyder's Man of Steel and Justice League, you know, we all know that. I've shouted from the rooftops ad nauseum. Those still weren't the versions of the characters that I had loved when I was a kid. I had faith that they were going to get there, and I was down to go on the ride that Zack Snyder was going to take us on. But immediately, I never saw those characters on screen. And right away from the opening vibe of the movie, when he whistles for Crypto and he says something like, "Take me home," and then the comforting message played in the Fortress of Solitude, the fact that there is a Fortress of Solitude, I was just so taken away. I was so happy. I had this huge smile on my face. It added to it because at least for the opening weekend, the auditoriums were packed. You know, at least at the place that I work, and I was just so happy to see like dads taking out their sons to come watch this movie for the first time. You would think with me saying all that is no way it's number one, like idiocy so eloquently puts in the chat. So it came available on HBO Max. And now also, you know, I'm kind of a slut for the movie going experience for watching movies in the theater. But I think what separates really the really good movies, or the top, you know, the top 5s from the top 3s from the top 2s, is how you can rewatch it on any medium. When this movie became available on HBO Max, I got popcorn, I had snackies, I had soda, you know, I was ready to sit back on a day off and enjoy one of my favorite movies of the year that at that time I still thought was number one. But then it started, and I don't know if it's because the way that it plays on TV or what it was, but I immediately got distracted in my head and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go do something else. Like, it did not hold my attention. The reason being is because although I loved the movie and I had such a great experience with it, I actually saw it 3 times going to the movies and loved it every single time. It is not Oscar caliber. It is not perfect by any means. It's extremely campy. It has some really like annoyingly really annoying attempts at comedy, some bad comedic timing, you know, typical James Gunn, like writing. A lot of the issues that I have with the Guardians movies, despite those movies all being good, is just the way he writes jokes and the way that he gets the line deliveries from the actors. It comes off as so campy, corny, and cheesy. And while yes, this is a Superman movie, it's a comic book movie, so of course it's going to be a little campy. It just rubbed me the wrong way. There were a lot of moments where the moment could have just been cool, and they opt for like comedy. The opening scene in that movie, right? Just the way that they filmed him flying, like the head first kind of angle, that kind of seems to be the standard with flying scenes these days. I just didn't like it. Like, I just simply just could not watch it. So while I will own this movie in a physical copy, I'm gonna love and cherish it forever. And eventually I will watch it again. Just knowing how quickly my brain checked out of watching it for that fourth time and the first time at home, there was no way I can in good conscience put it at any, number one compared to these other three movies. With all that being said, though, I don't want to end the part of the Superman presentation on a bad note, because it was so refreshing to see a superhero portrayed without nuance, without vigilante, or without evil hero, or without major conflict that shakes his outlook on life. Superman in this movie, played by David Cornsweet, is just good for the sake of being good, because he knows it's the right thing to do, and he does not waver. Even when one of his foundational platforms of his parents, or his Kryptonian parents, gets called into question, he does not waver even for a second. Yes, he's in denial a little bit, but does not waver for a second. Like, Superman is just good because it's the right thing to do. When, the Spider-Man line of the great power comes great responsibility, and he is the most powerful, so therefore he has the most responsibility. But I also love at the end of the movie that part of learning how to manage that responsibility is not just to spread yourself super thin, but ask for help, reaching out to other like-minded individuals. And I think that's sick. And this movie, obviously, for about a couple weeks after it came out, which is longer than anything stays in the cultural zeitgeist these days, it really inspired people to do good. Pet adoptions went up. There was a widespread thing on Twitter of just people just being nice to each other for like a while, which is crazy on Twitter. The movie really inspired people to be a little good, even if it was only for a couple weeks. It was just really lovely to see, and I think Superman, will withstand that test of time. So this next movie, if Superman inspires everyone to be good all the time, this next movie inspires some people to do the complete opposite. And while this movie, I think, could be higher within a few months, or maybe by the end of this year, upon some rewatches, I could not in good conscience put it any higher, because while I did enjoy the movie a lot, I only watched it once, and it was kind of fresh in my mind when I took down these notes and I made this list. So without further ado, guys.
Oh! I'm on a new level.
I have a purpose.
I won't stop now.
Finish that sentence.
Leveling up to the top now. Money Miser. Bing. Oh.
Come on, he's right here!
Money baller, how to be a boss.
And what do you plan to do if this dream of yours doesn't work
That
out?
doesn't even enter my consciousness.
Oh, this is my town. You didn't know, well, you know it now.
Number 3, Marty Supreme. Now, part of my flaws with this movie actually come from even some of the marketing that was in that trailer. Have you ever watched Uncut Gems starring Adam Sandler? It's a movie that this movie has been compared to at a nauseating degree. But have you ever watched Uncut Gems and kind of wanted a movie that was longer, a little bit better acted, better in a lot of ways, but also kind of worse by the end of it? That's Marty Supreme. Equal part inspiring, infuriating, dumbfounding, heartwarming, and hopeless, but also hopeful and amazing. This movie is a lot. The only thing that it is not is perfect. In this movie, maybe it's because of the use of a lot of tight shots where a lot of things are not zoom ins, but really closely cropped and blocked. And Timothy just really commands every scene and commands the screen. And I never really understood what that meant until I watched this movie. Filled with a ton of great performances. No one in this movie outperforms him. The movie is all about him. He is the main character, and he makes you root against and for him, all within the same movie. Sometimes within the spans of 20 minutes. Part of my problem with this movie is that I think that it really kind of gave young men a lot of the wrong message. I think while there is something to be said for chasing your dreams, having a goal, and stopping at nothing to accomplish it, there needs to be boundaries, or there should be boundaries anyways. I think we're sold a lot on achieving greatness means that you have to step over people. And I think that while that is how a lot of people, if not most people, accomplish true greatness or virtual immortality or something of that nature, I don't think it needs to be done that way. And the saddest part of this movie is that it goes on just a little too long. I think there are some scenes, especially one scene in particular at the end, that served absolutely zero purpose. They go in for a goal and they don't even accomplish the goal. And all we did was waste 20 minutes just on some lightweight action in the movie. And then it just jumps right to the end. Like, not like as in the movie ends, but it jumps right to the last set piece, right to the last scene. Like, just didn't even matter in the slightest. Although it did further push the lengths that Marty's willing to go to get what he wants and accomplish what he wants to accomplish. Still, by the end of it, like, I was thoroughly gripped. Like, like I said, I was behind this character accomplishing his dream. But if he was a real life person, piece of shit, die, you don't deserve it. At the end of the day, this movie made me really invested in a game of ping pong between a post World War II Jewish guy and a Japanese guy. Like, there was a ton of implied story there in those shared kind of pasts and histories coming together in this silly little table tennis game that was just great storytelling, really gripping kind of, for lack of a better term, action. But Marty Supreme, splendid movie. I highly recommend that anyone go to watch it. So I always kind of do this thing, right? Where, like, I think in 2021, my favorite thing of the year was like Bo Burnham's Inside. While not technically a movie, what I think is the best movie is often not my favorite movie of that year. I think that is, again, we have another entry like that. I think this movie, whew, I'll talk about it after, but ladies and gentlemen, number 2.
We've been gone a long time. We back now. You twins? Nah, we cousins.
Well, somebody take me in your eyes.
But it also can pierce the veil between life and death. We gonna kill every last one of you.
I actually forgot that movie came out on April 18th. So that means that I watched it on my birthday, and that probably added to the lore of me liking this movie forever. Sinners, to me, is the best movie I have watched all year. It didn't really, it wasn't in my head exactly how much of this movie that they actually kind of spoiled in the trailer. But yet, when you watch the movie, you're still super invested in every single plot twist or, quote unquote death. And I can't imagine how this movie even would have had more impact if they didn't show, the Haley Stanfield thing, the brother, cornbread, right? If those things were all just surprises, maybe show one of them for like the hook, but they continue to kind of show all of them. Our main antagonist, he comes down from the sky and he's being chased by hunters that are Native American, and the way that they interact with the clan members and the house that he stumbles on, it's like the world is already so lived in. The twins coming from robbing Capone's gang, like I said, the world is so lived in. There's a ton of like history in there, and it just adds to the character motivations and what they care about. Not to mention Michael B. Jordan. I think he doesn't get enough credit, or at least I had a conversation with one of my coworkers that he doesn't really feel like Smoke and Stack are like different whatsoever. And I think that the differences are like plain as day to me, but they are very nuanced. They're very small, but it's a lot of small differences between the two that add up to the one big difference. Just technically so impressive. Once again, the music, that big, the one of the most beloved scenes in recent years of the song "Somebody Take Me." That, oh man, it gives me chills every time. The setting of where it was shot, I love the costume design. Everyone's so sharply dressed, so of the time. It was one of those movies that, because the world's so lived in, like I mentioned, the costume design, the way that the lines are written, like as far as like the dialect and how everyone speaks, it's just so of the time, so immersive. I truly feel like I'm watching a live stream of, that time period, just with a little bit of vampires in it. And then that scene where Sammy's being baptized by the vampire, oh, that is just one of the most suspenseful, most well-written kind of lectures from a movie of all time. Sinners Forever, I think, honestly belongs in the pantheon of like some of the greatest movies, you know, up there. I wish I'd have made even more money than it did. I'm happy that it did make money. It really brought people out. It not only brought people out, but it brought people out to watch the movie in IMAX that probably would never spend the extra, you know, $8.50 on an IMAX ticket. I thought that was really cool to see. I always love when IMAX screens get filled up because I think that it truly is one of the better, if not the best way to watch a movie and experience film. Centers motivating people to do that. Amazing. And I think for a lot of people, it is number one with a beyond a shadow of a doubt. And like I said, it's what I think is the best movie of the year. The only reason being, number one, this movie would not probably be on any person's top 5 list except for mine. The reason being is because this movie does not work by itself. It is like watching Avengers Endgame if you've never seen any of the previous MCU movies. It does not work by itself. No one would give a shit about anything that happens unless they watched every little bit of stuff leading up to it. I did not watch this movie in a theater. I wish I did. I actually asked my boss for a day off to try to watch him. He did not allow me to. Well, he didn't say no, but he scheduled me all 3 days that this movie was playing. While I didn't watch it in the theater, I watched it from the comfort of my own home, but I watched it with my favorite person on the planet, and we both had very similar experiences, cried at all the same parts. Ladies and gentlemen, number one for 2025.
For this to be resolved, fight.
I hope you will make that vow with me to break away from this era of mutual hate.
Levi, do you think they're all watching over us? The comrades we've lost. Do you think they'd be proud of what we're doing here?
We're scouts right now, but I don't care. I want to fight to the bitter end. Not knowing when to give up is what makes us who we are. Dedicate your heart.
I'm still not gonna let you pass!
Thank you, Aaron, for showing me what was beyond the walls and for showing me this side of you. Both of us are responsible for what happened. Goodbye, Aaron.
Thank you for wrapping the scarf around me, Aaron.
Ladies and gentlemen, Attack on Titan Last Attack. This is the one movie that this is all like, this right here is all like an outro. I don't even know if you can see it. Every other movie has notes here. Attack on Titan, I wrote, no notes needed, go off king. The reason being, no, yes, am I fandangling some stuff to make this movie, you know, a movie of 2025? Sure. However, Attack on Titan is simply, to me, my favorite piece of media that I have ever consumed in my life. Attack on Titan to me is the ceiling for writing, for not necessarily animation, because season 4, I think Studio Wit did a better job than Studio Mappa. I don't see a movie ever being more well written than Attack on Titan. Not necessarily from a dialogue, but from like a plot point perspective. Every little bit of foreshadowing, hinting, everything gets called back to, everything connects by the end of the movie or by the end of the series, and that end of the series is brought together in Attack on Titan: The Last Attack. I watched this with my favorite person, and that is after spending 10 years of watching this show with various amounts of people, other friends, and whatnot. And I showed my girlfriend this starting, you know, earlier in the year. I would just go on and on about how good the show is, but she was always like, you know, anime's for nerds, it's for geeks, it's for losers, so forth and so on. And then I showed her this and we were instantly hooked. Now she is addicted. Now she has Levi shirts. She bought the first 3 volumes on omnibus of the manga, liking the show that much. Yeah, dude, like, so I always enjoyed it, right? But I was originally watching it in the sub version because that's how it was coming out, and you know, I wasn't no loser. And I think that especially towards the later half of season 3 to into season 4, I think that a lot of it got lost in translation for me. I wasn't able to pay attention at the cool pictures on screen as well as read and really digest all of the subtitles before having to read the next thing. But watching it in English in the dub, while the voice acting not nearly as good, especially for our main character, I think by the end of the show, it all kind of comes together and gets a lot better. But at least for me, I was able to digest things a lot more easily and really connect the dots and remember what was said at certain points, just because hearing it was a lot easier for me to understand than trying to read it. I really appreciated on this watching it in English, like how good this shit is, how much I grew up with the characters, how much I loved all the characters. There's so much that you can say about Attack on Titan, but so little you can say without spoiling anything. But let me tell you, my favorite character in the show, obviously Captain Levi, humanity's strongest soldier. But my second favorite character is actually Rhina, and I think Rhina actually got the biggest cry out of me when watching this. Simply when he tells his mom that he doesn't have, it anymore. Like, if you don't fuck with anime or whatever, I think you can watch this and really fucking love it and appreciate it almost to the level that I do. Because this show is not like a lot of other anime in the way that it does have some anime isms, like some dramatic screaming and crying, but especially towards the later seasons when a lot of it gets really paid off, a lot of those same scenes that you saw in season 1 or the same kind of voice acting approaches, they really feel earned by then. Commander Irvin with the most iconic speech, I think, in media ever. So many fucking great moments. Some moments that make you jump out of your chair, like Levi's attack on the Beast Titan, like, I said advance, god damn it. Like, all that, like I said, culminates in this movie where you see main character break bad, but it's just from this sympathetic place, and his friends that grew up with him and loved him now have to be the ones to stop him, and there's no other way. It is unavoidable. I thought there was no way a show this good could ever stick the landing, but god damn it, in my opinion, they did. I heard that the manga ending is a lot worse. Even though it's mostly the same, there's a few little small changes that make the manga worse. I simply don't see it. Like, I think that Attack on Titan is the ceiling. I think it is the ceiling. I think there is a point there. My life is in two halves before I watch Attack on Titan and after I finish Attack on Titan. If you haven't watched Attack on Titan because you're one of my friends, or you're someone who's just watching this video because you like film, or going to movies or whatever, but you never watch Attack on Titan because you don't fuck with anime, suck it up and roll up the sleeves and watch a show and just give it a chance. By the time that you're in the middle of season 2, big bombs drop and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? And man, whew, there are so many scenes that I still get clips of on my TikTok every time, and it's chills every fucking time. But that, ladies and gentlemen, are my top 5 favorite movies of the year 2025. If you agree with my list, disagree with my list, I don't give a fuck. Give the video a like, comment your list down below, and if you think that One Battle After Another, Eternity, Begonia, Frankenstein, or Rental Family would have made this list, please let me know. Thank you very much for watching.